Hello and welcome to the 2 Minute Drill Podcast. I'm Michael Rochman. That's Bailey Kumar. And today we are discussing sleeper running backs. We already discussed the top 10 guys at the position, the consensus top 10 at least. But we have some guys that maybe are a little more underrated that you should be paying attention to for this 2024 college football season. Before we dive into any of the backs, though, Bailey, how's your day going?
Pretty good. Can't complain. How about yourself?
Yeah, thank goodness it's Friday. Am I right? Just very excited and very excited to talk about some of these ball carriers. It's easy to talk about the top guys, but finding those hidden gems, I think that's just the beauty of scouting. And unfortunately, we have no lives, so we like to do it and we like to grind the tape. So I'm excited for the guys that we have on the agenda today. And I'm going to go ahead and get started with my first sleeper, and that is CJ Donaldson, running back out of West Virginia, a guy that was a former tight end, stepped into this Mountaineers offense and really kind of supplied them with the great size and frame that he has. He is just a dominant runner, 240 pounds, can work through the trenches extremely well, took on the power back role, especially in the backfield that has Garrett Green, Raheim White. He's going to be the guy that's really getting those short area goal line type of runs and converting on those. And he does so extremely well. What were your thoughts whenever you were analyzing his talent on film?
Yeah. It's a bit weird to say, but because you very rarely see this, but he was pretty raw as a running back. And like you said, he's a pretty much of a pure power guy. I didn't love his reads. When he was given the ball, I thought he was a bit hesitant to do so, a bit slow to do so. When he finally did make a read, I thought he was kind of slow on his cutbacks. He's more of a guy, like you said, a power guy, where you're kind of just tell him to run through a gap and he'll do that. Being a former tight end, he is a great blocker. He was a fantastic blocker, probably the best in the class, just from his experience. And there's a lot of things that you can see kind of the upside with him, but there's a lot of things you need to see him work on too before you kind of feel comfortable with drafting him.
Yeah, and heading into his third season, getting real valuable experience at a running back, I expect those instincts to kind of continue to improve gradually. Maybe not taking that next step to where he's just this elite level runner, but he's someone that I like the flashes. I like the pass blocking. I assume the receiving upside is there as well with his tight end background. 6'2", 238 is something that you just can't really find in most running backs, so the size is tremendous. I'm really excited to see what he does for this Mountaineers offense because we know about Garrett Green. We know about some of these other weapons in the offense, but the backfield is kind of where this Mountaineers team can kind of take that next step. And I think CJ Donaldson is going to play a big part in that.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if his best role might be fullback in the NFL just because of his size, his blocking, and he still has that running ability, but might be a guy that comes into the league 20 years too late, 30 years too late, where he would have been a great fullback in that, those I formations, but NFL's going away from that, so he might struggle to find a place in the league.
Yeah, there still are a few teams that will deploy one, so we'll see. Maybe he has a future there. But why don't you go ahead and take us off with your next sleeper?
Yeah, this guy, I'm not really sure if he's a sleeper. I'm sure everybody knows him, but it's Raheim Sanders. Great 2022 season. 2023 got cut short due to a leg injury. I did watch his 23 tape. I'm not sure what happened in the offseason. If there's more injuries or something, but he looked a little bit slower than when he looked like in 2022. Obviously, that injury does not help things. He's come back, he's transferred, so we'll see if he can kind of regain that speed that really made him that special back in 2022. The one thing the injury can't take away is his size. He's a big boy, and he lets the opposing defense know that he loves running over other people. Um, yeah, I mean, he's just overall like a really solid back, and I think he'll have a great, bounce back year this year, and he can, become draftable. But if he kind of continues to show the same, lack of speed and some of his other stuff is sap, like his explosiveness, which already wasn't that great to begin with, we might see him go undrafted. So this is a real make or break year for him.
Yeah, he's someone that I'm really excited about. 6 foot, 230 pounds. So obviously a great frame for a backfield type of runner. And he's someone that, contributed as a receiving option in 2022 to where he was showing that he can't kind of handle the full workload. You assume the blocking is obviously going to be there for a guy that size. He has some great power, great force, but it doesn't necessarily sacrifice it for his burst and acceleration, especially when he finds the open field. So that's something really exciting for Sanders. This is a guy that we were talking about as a potential first round pick at one point in the draft process for 2022. Eventually, the hype sort of fell off as the injuries kind of obviously took their effect over the course of the season. Now transferring from Arkansas to South Carolina, going to be interesting to see how he works into that offense. Lenoris Sellers is obviously kind of an inexperienced quarterback, so a little bit of an unknown in that situation with Gamecocks offense, but they're going to rely on Sanders, and he has a real chance to kind of recapture that momentum, maybe potentially rise up the ranks again and be one of the top backs in this 2025 NFL draft. Moving forward to my next sleeper, and I'm going to talk about another transfer guy, and that is Justice Ellison, running back that came from Wake Forest to Indiana, followed Cignetti over to the Hoosiers. And I'm really intrigued for him because this is someone that was operating in RPO offense, obviously, with that Demon Deacons slow RPO type of system where they kind of wait for the defense to decide. But you saw some great acceleration and burst when he got the ball in his hands. And I think it kind of worked out for that offense where, even though he was hesitant in the backfield and waiting for the defense to kind of make a decision on whether they wanted to cover the pass or the run, you saw that once he got the ball in his hands, he was able to still take off quickly and show some great moments. It's hard to evaluate how that's going to work in a real NFL offense or even a real college offense, but I thought the flashes were there. I thought the overall just elusiveness with his legs, the ability to make defenders miss when they try to go low on him was very impressive. Not necessarily someone that I'm viewing as this guy that's going to go first round, second round type of runner, but I do think he's going to be a valuable day three potential type of guy if he continues to have this contribution to the Hoosiers in a more standard NFL type of offense.
Yeah, Ellison was really interesting. Like you said, it was a kind of a weird offense. It's really hard to evaluate him, but I did like some of the traits I saw. I think he might be a gap only guy at the next level. I didn't love his vision when he's choosing, kind of which holes to run through. And when he did choose a hole, sometimes it seems like he second guessed himself. He didn't run through with full force. So those are some, tiny things that he's gonna have to work on and that you want to see improved. But he definitely has the upside and the traits, liked his contact balance. As something that you didn't mention is something that I thought was a real great positive with him. But yeah, I'm just not sure with him. This is another guy, definition of a sleeper. Can't right now. I don't think he's draftable, but if he continues to not continues, but if he does show that he's able to operate in a normal offense, I think he could, sneak as a day three pick. But I'm not sure about his upside right now.
Yeah, and another interesting thing for this Hoosiers running game is that Kalen Black followed Cignetti from James Madison. So at the very least, he's probably going to be splitting this backfield. But I like what I saw out of Ellison. I think he has the potential to make those impact runs, kind of convert into big games and make some, kind of splash plays for any type of run game. So I'm excited to see what happens for him with the Hoosiers. This is definitely one of the more riskier picks for sleeper, just because, when you're splitting a backfield with a guy that already has experience with the head coach, there's obviously that chance that maybe you just are worked out of the rotation. But I really liked what I saw from him at Wake Forest, and I'm hoping that he continues that success over with the Hoosiers. But go ahead and take us with your next sleeper back, Bailey.
Yeah, my next sleeper back is Phil Mafah. This is a guy who caught my eye last year when we were watching Will Shipley. Kind of outproduced him in that backfield as a runner. He is a big back. Shipley was kind of a smaller guy. He was the big back in the rotation. Really powerful, really strong runner. Not really using the pass game, which is a little annoying just partly it's because he's not great at it, but partly it's because of how good Shipley is. But he should be Clemson's clear RB1 right now. He should get all the opportunity and chances to be on the field for all three downs, get those pass catching chances, get those pass blocking chances as well, just to show that he's kind of like a fully well-rounded guy. The only thing that with him that I'm a bit questioning is his upside. I didn't think he's a guy who's consistently going to be like a 15, 20 yard, run guy in terms of what he can do. He's more of a wear you down type guy, with these 7, 8, 9 yard, 8, 9, 10 yard runs, just wear down a defense. So we'll see how he does when he has the full-time load and not splitting anything. So I'm pretty excited for him this year.
Yeah, he still had 180 carries and nearly got to the 1,000 yard mark. So he's someone that Clemson isn't afraid to rely on, and especially with Shipley gone, I'm expecting that workload to just continue to increase. He's a guy that has a really old school type of frame, not necessarily old school, but 6'1", 223 pounds. So he is able to kind of manage a full workload, especially at the college level. I'm excited to see what he can do. Obviously, Shipley was a receiving back. He's a guy that you're going to involve in your pass game. But Mafah still contributed 21 receptions, so I do think that there's potential for that number to nearly double, honestly. And with the way that Klubnik likes to check down, they're going to need that dependability out of him as that offense is going to kind of center around that running attack and trying to grind out games. And I think Mafah is going to be in for a big role. Clemson's obviously looking to bounce back, and they're going to try to make Klubnik as comfortable as possible in doing so. And the best way to do that is to have a dependable run game that you can rely on, kind of set up the defense and make it to where the passing opportunities over the top are able to be taken advantage of. And that's the best way for Clemson to create success in 2024. And I think Mafah is going to be the centerpiece for it. So for my next sleeper, I'm going to talk about RJ Harvey, running back for Central Florida, a guy that I am very excited about at the college level. And I think that success is just so consistent that it's more likely to just, not end when he goes to the NFL. He's 5'9", 200 pounds. So the big question for me is frame. How are you going to be able to continue this running success when you haven't necessarily shown great receiving upside? But if you are able to continue to effectively run, are you able to carve out that role in the backfield? We've seen some college backs be able to overcome their smaller frame and maybe not have the greatest receiving upside. And we've seen some guys that looked great at the college game and fell off when they went to the next level because they couldn't find that role. So for a guy like Harvey, he's very efficient. He's very smooth. And I just feel like the composure as a runner is so underrated because it's kind of hard to sort of put down in like a quantifying type of way or even kind of describe when it comes to each type of back, because you like the aggressiveness and you like the burst. But also when there's guys that just look comfortable with the ball in their hands, they're able to produce consistently. And that's what Harvey's able to do now, especially with a UCF offense that has KJ Jefferson in the backfield, where teams are going to have to kind of fill the gaps and worry about the power aspect from him running up the middle. Harvey's going to get some more opportunities outside, and I think that's going to result in some more explosive plays. So I'm really excited for the season ahead for the Golden Knights, and especially Harvey. And I think he could be in for a big season that could potentially get him on draft radars.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I do think, like you said, the biggest thing with him is, that he is a smaller back. And I think this kind of really caps him and hinders him in a way where I liked his vision when he was, doing running back, but he almost seemed like too patient and too like, I don't know, content waiting for a hole to open up because he knew you couldn't power through there. So I do think that kind of limits his upside. I think he's going to be like a more of a change of pace third down back in the NFL. I thought his receiving was actually pretty good. I was kind of impressed with what I saw for him from receiving, especially from a smaller guy. I like the way that he lined up for UCF. He was, lined up as a wide receiver. He's coming over in motion, doing all this crazy stuff. So I think I really like him as more of a weapon, an offensive weapon, than strictly just a running back. But like you said, that does come with more receiving work. So I would like to see him have some more involvement in that receiving game, run some more advanced routes, more than your typical dump offs and wheels. Run some good stuff. And yeah, I'm excited for him. I think he will take another step forward and continue to produce.
Yeah, I thought he showed some nice flashes, but 22 receptions and 19 receptions in the past 2 seasons. So there's a little bit more to prove, just showing that you can take on a large workload in that regard and contribute consistently from game to game. But Bailey, go ahead and show us your next sleeper running back.
Yeah, so this is a guy I was thinking about who to put in my last slot, and I kind of went for Kyle. I hope I pronounced the last name right, Monangai. So the reason why I kind of picked him was looking around, and I put on some of his tape, and the one thing I love with kind of sleepers is smart runners, smart guys, with the high football IQ who know what they're doing, know how to execute their role, and those are the guys that got me excited. Especially as kind of a sleeper late round options for guys that are going to get drafted. Yeah, high football IQ, great vision. The Rutgers O-line was not great last year, and he still was able to produce. He's able to keep his legs moving, keep pounding the hole, keep like gaining yards, which I thought was pretty impressive. I was came away very impressed when I watched him. And I also love his aggression and willingness in the pass game as a pass blocker. And he is one of these rare guys, not rare guys, but one of the, out of all the guys you mentioned, I think he's the best kind of upside for the bell cow role that we've seen. He's shown that he's able to kind of take that workload and, maintain his efficiency even late into games. He doesn't really get tired. So, we kind of think of like this is not really like a play style or trade combo like a Chuba Hubbard, where he's not really like a backup. He's more like an RB3 for you. But if your RB1 goes down, this is the guy you want to give the ball to because you kind of trust him to make all those carries and keep that efficiency going up. And yeah, good leg movement, strong runner, gain yards out the contact, make a guy miss. I think there's a lot of desirable traits here, and that I think he will definitely be drafted.
Yeah, 5'9", 210 pounds. Someone that, really put Rutgers on their back last season. The expectations weren't super high, but obviously Shiano was kind of building the program in the right direction. And Monangai really kind of was a big part in that. 1,200 yards rushing last year, had 8 touchdowns. The big question right now is the receiving upside, but I think the flashes are there. He had 5 catches in his last 2 games, so I think it's going to be something that they sprinkle in more often this season. But he does definitely need to kind of take that next step in that regard, just showing the production, showing the ability with the ball in his hands in open space. My favorite thing about him was his contact balance. The most impressive play for me wasn't even a play where he got the ball. It was a play action situation where he got absolutely lit up like a step after the fake. And he went down like with his shoulders and he thought he was just going to fall to the ground because obviously you probably aren't running as hard as usual in play action situations. And he just stood over the defender as he knocked him to the ground and he was completely upright. This is a guy that continuously just takes contact and is able to regain his balance, regain his composure, and find ways to create yardage after those situations. So if he's able to continue to evade tackles in that way with a little bit maybe smaller frame at 5'9", but when you're 5'9", 210, I mean, that's plenty of power behind you, plenty of thickness on his frame. So that's a guy that I really like. I think the burst is there. I saw some ability in the open field. I do question the long speed overall, so maybe the testing won't be as exciting as some of the other backs, especially when, you kind of look at situations where a Jalen Wright maybe goes a little higher because of the combine performance and the speed that he showcases long term. So that's where my question is from a long guy. And obviously, there's just more production that you want to see in the receiving aspect. But I do think he's exciting. He's going to be a big part of what Rutgers does this season. Scarlet Knights just continue to trend upward with Shiano as head coach. So I'm excited to see what happens. And a big part of that is going to be Kyle Monangai. And now for my last sleeper, I'm going to be talking about Jonah Coleman, running back for Washington, was with Arizona Wildcats last season, followed Jedd Fisch in the transfer portal up to the Huskies, and I think he's in for a big season. Last year with the Wildcats, he wasn't necessarily the lead back in that backfield, but eventually worked his way into the rotation and worked his way into that lead role. 5'9", 230 pounds, so there's a lot of power behind his punches as a runner, but I mean, it's not just strength that you're going to see with Coleman. He has speed. He has ability as a receiver. He had 25 receptions despite working in rotation. He has great pass blocking ability. When you look at the PFF grades, which aren't an end-all, be-all, but something that's worth considering, he had, I think, above 70 in every department as a runner, as a receiver, as a pass blocker. He just has every single tool that you're wanting. He checks every single box. He's someone that I have with a third-round grade right now, and I know that in running back terms, that can kind of be higher than what it really is, but this is someone that I think is going to work his way into the conversation with the guys like Genty, with the guys like Judkins, with the guys like Henderson, because I think he's that good. And that frame, I mean, 5'9", 230, that's crazy type of weight for a guy that's that short, but he just has it all. And when you give him open space, he's able to capitalize. So I'm really excited for Coleman, especially with this Huskies offense that Will Rogers, I don't think, is necessarily going to be able to kind of carry the team. So we're going to see a running-based attack to the offense compared to the passing attack we saw last year. And Coleman's going to be a big part of it.
Yeah, out of all the guys we watch, I was probably most impressed with Coleman during his 2023 season. I think he would have been one of my, top 5 running backs last year if he had been in that class, which probably speaks to more how bad that last class was than Coleman himself. But he was really impressive, especially that USC game. He was just throwing defenders off him. It seemed like they need 3 or 4 guys just to bring him down. He has all those traits you want in a running back. He's a hard runner. He has the burst. He has the speed. The only thing that I kind of thought was lacking was he does need a little bit of a buildup. He needs a little bit of a runway before he gets fully going. But he does hit the holes hard, and we kind of see this as a problem in when the defense is coming at him and he's getting hit in the backfield. Sometimes he's able to shake it off, but you kind of want to see him shake it off maybe a little more. So that'll be something for him to improve on. And yeah, I mean, he doesn't have like maybe elite breakaway speed or elite lateral mobility, but this is a powerful runner who will, rip off 15, 20-yard runs, and he has the burst, he has the physical strength, and he is very impressive, and I'm very excited to watch him next season.
Yeah, I'd say the only thing working against him, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for him specifically, is just this is a very loaded running back class, and he's a third-year junior that may have his first year with a full workload. So there's a chance that he could easily return back to Washington or somewhere else next season instead of going to the draft and maybe waiting another year and trying his luck in what is expected to be a little bit weaker of a running back class. But I mean, year in, year out, there's usually going to be a good running back batch that enters the draft. So this is someone that I think is talented enough to compete with some of these top names. And I'm excited to see what happens for him in 2024 because I think he's in for a great campaign. Well, that is all we have for you here on the 2-Minute Drill podcast. We hope you guys liked it. Next time, you'll see us talk about wide receivers and tight ends. And as we continue and inch closer and closer to the season, we're going to talk about all the other positions before the season starts. I'm Michael Rochman. That's Bailey Kumar. And that's the 2-Minute Drill.